The morning sun cast long shadows across the abandoned warehouse district in downtown Los Angeles.
Maya Rodriguez adjusted her position on the rooftop, her green eyes scanning the streets below through the scope of her custom rifle. At 28, she had already earned a reputation that made hardened military veterans step back in respect. The woman they called Guardian Angel was about to prove once again why she was the most feared female marksman in U.S. Navy SEAL history.
3 blocks away, a hostage situation was unfolding.
Terrorists had taken control of a children's hospital, holding 42 kids and 15 staff members. The local police had tried negotiating for 6 hours. SWAT teams were positioned around the building, but the terrorists had made their demands clear: release their captured leader from federal prison, or the children would pay the price. Maya's radio crackled softly in her ear.
Angel 1, this is command. We have eyes on 6 tangos inside the building.
3 on the main floor, 2 on the second floor, and 1 rooftop sniper.
Your call.
She pressed her throat. Mic copy that, command. I need 5 minutes to assess wind patterns and entry points.
Keep all units in position until my signal.
Maya had grown up in a small Texas town where her father, a former Marine, had taught her to shoot when she was barely 10 years old. By 15, she could hit a target at 800 yards in windy conditions. But it wasn't just her shooting skills that made her special.
Maya possessed something that couldn't be taught: the ability to remain completely calm under pressure while making split-second decisions that could save or cost lives. Her journey to becoming a SEAL had been anything but easy. When she first applied, the Navy wasn't even accepting women for SEAL training.
Maya spent 2 years fighting bureaucratic battles, proving herself in every other special operations role available. She completed Army Ranger training, excelled in force recon missions with the Marines, and earned more commendations than most soldiers see in a full career. When the SEAL program finally opened to women, Maya was the first to volunteer. The training nearly broke her. The instructors pushed her harder than any male candidate, waiting for her to quit. During Hell Week, she carried a boat over her head for 3 miles with a broken rib.
She completed underwater demolition exercises while fighting off hypothermia. When other candidates dropped out one by one, Maya kept going. The graduation ceremony was small and quiet. Only 12 people out of 47 had made it through the program. Maya stood among them, the first woman to ever earn the SEAL Trident.
But even then, some questioned whether she belonged. It took her first mission to silence the doubters.
That mission had been in Afghanistan.
A Taliban leader had taken hostages in a remote village, threatening to execute them one by one unless NATO forces withdrew from the province.
Maya's team was inserted under cover of darkness.
While her teammates created a distraction at the compound's main entrance, Maya positioned herself on a mountainside over a mile away. The target was standing behind a hostage, using the innocent man as a human shield. The shot required threading the bullet through a gap barely 6 inches wide, accounting for wind speed, elevation, and the slight tremor in the hostage's movement.
Maya took the shot. The bullet traveled for nearly 3 seconds before finding its mark. The terrorist dropped instantly, the hostage unharmed.
Word of that shot spread quickly through military circles. Maya had made the impossible shot under conditions that would challenge the world's best marksman. From that day forward, she was known as Guardian Angel, the sniper who could appear anywhere and eliminate threats without harming innocents. Now, perched on a rooftop in Los Angeles, Maya faced a similar challenge.
The terrorists inside the hospital were paranoid and careful.
They kept moving, using children as shields, staying away from windows.
But Maya had spent the past hour studying their patterns.
She noticed that every 12 minutes, the leader would walk to the second-floor window to check on police positions.
He would stand there for exactly 8 seconds before moving away. Maya's spotter, Sergeant First Class Tommy Chen, lay beside her with high-powered binoculars.
Tommy had worked with Maya for 3 years and trusted her completely. Winds picking up from the southwest, he whispered.
2.5 miles per hour, gusting to 4.
Maya made minute adjustments to her scope. The hospital was 430 yards away, not an impossible distance, but the angle was tricky. She would have to shoot through a narrow opening between two buildings, account for the wind, and time the shot perfectly to avoid hitting any innocents. Her radio buzzed again.
Angel 1, we're getting reports that the Tangos are becoming agitated. They're threatening to start executing hostages in 10 minutes if their demands aren't met. Maya checked her watch. The terrorist leader would make his next appearance at the window in 4 minutes. Command, I have a solution.
One shot, clean elimination of the primary target.
Need confirmation that all units are ready to breach immediately after. Copy that, Angel 1. All units standing by. You have authorization for the shot. Maya controlled her breathing, slowing her heart rate.
This was the moment when everything else disappeared, the sounds of the city, the pressure from headquarters, even the knowledge that dozens of children's lives hung in the balance. There was only the target, the wind, and the bullet's path. Through her scope, she watched the window where the terrorist leader would appear. She had studied his pattern carefully. He always approached from the left side of the window, stood in the center for 8 seconds while looking toward the police barricades, then moved away to the right. The shot had to be taken during those 8 seconds when he was visible but not moving.
3 minutes.
Maya made a final adjustment to her position, ensuring her rifle was perfectly stable. Her custom weapon was a modified M40A6 with a specialized suppressor and enhanced optics. She had personally calibrated every component. The rifle was as much a part of her as her own hands.
2 minutes.
Tommy updated her on wind conditions.
A slight shift in direction would affect the bullet's trajectory. Maya compensated accordingly. 1 minute.
Maya's breathing became deeper and more controlled.
Her finger rested lightly on the trigger.
Every muscle in her body was relaxed except for the ones needed to maintain her shooting position.
30 seconds.
Maya's radio remained silent.
The entire operation was waiting for her shot.
SWAT teams were positioned at every entrance to the hospital, ready to storm the building the moment the terrorist leader was neutralized. The terrorist appeared at the window right on schedule.
Maya's crosshairs found their target instantly.
The man stood exactly where she expected, looking out at the police positions below.
7 seconds remaining. 6. 5. Maya's finger applied gentle pressure to the trigger.
The rifle fired with a muffled crack.
The bullet traveled across the distance in less than half a second.
Through her scope, Maya watched the terrorist leader collapse. The shot had been perfect, a clean headshot that eliminated the threat instantly. Target down, Maya reported calmly into her radio.
All units breach now.
What followed was chaos.
SWAT teams burst through every entrance simultaneously. Flashbang grenades exploded throughout the building.
The remaining terrorists, caught off guard by the sudden death of their leader, were quickly overwhelmed.
Within 6 minutes, all threats had been neutralized and the hostages were safe. Maya remained in position, watching through her scope as paramedics rushed into the building. Children and staff members were led out to safety.
Not a single hostage had been harmed.
The operation was a complete success. As Maya packed up her rifle, Tommy shook his head in amazement.
430 yards, through that gap between buildings, with wind gusts. I've seen you make tough shots before, but that was something else.
Maya simply nodded.
For her, it was just another day's work. She had eliminated a threat and saved innocent lives. That was what she had trained for, what she lived for. But, as she climbed down from the rooftop, Maya had no idea that this mission would thrust her into the spotlight in ways she never wanted.
News crews had gathered outside the hospital.
When they learned that a female SEAL sniper had made the crucial shot that ended the standoff, the story exploded across national media.
By evening, Maya's photograph was on every major news website.
The Pentagon tried to keep her identity classified, but information leaked quickly. Maya found herself at the center of a media storm she wasn't prepared for. Reporters camped outside her apartment.
Talk show hosts wanted interviews.
Military analysts debated her tactics on television. The woman who had spent years operating in secret was suddenly one of the most famous soldiers in America. The attention brought both praise and criticism. Many celebrated Maya as a hero, a symbol of women's capabilities in combat roles. Others questioned whether women belonged in special operations, regardless of their skills. Political commentators used her story to advance their own agendas. Maya watched it all with growing discomfort. What bothered her most was how the media focused on her gender rather than her capabilities. Headlines read "Female Sniper Saves Children" instead of "Expert Marksman Ends Hostage Crisis." She was described as petite and attractive in articles that should have been about her tactical skills and years of training. Maya had never wanted to be a symbol or spokesperson. She wanted to do her job and protect people. The constant attention made that increasingly difficult. Her commanding officers were fielding dozens of interview requests daily. Political figures wanted to meet with her. Women's advocacy groups invited her to speak at events. 3 weeks after the hospital incident, Maya was called to a meeting at Pentagon headquarters in Washington, D.C. She entered a conference room filled with high-ranking military officials and government representatives. At the head of the table sat General Patricia Morrison, one of the highest-ranking women in the U.S. military. Petty Officer Rodriguez, General Morrison began, "Your actions in Los Angeles have brought significant attention to our special operations programs. We need to discuss how to manage this situation moving forward." Maya stood at attention. "Yes, ma'am. If I may, General, I'd prefer to return to regular operations as soon as possible. The media attention is interfering with my ability to do my job effectively." A man in a suit whom Maya didn't recognize spoke up. "That might not be possible, Petty Officer. Your story has captured national attention. There are ways we could use that attention to benefit military recruitment and public relations." Maya felt her jaw tighten. "With respect, sir, I didn't become a SEAL to be a recruitment poster. I became a SEAL to serve my country and protect innocent people." General Morrison raised a hand to silence the room. "We understand your concerns, Rodriguez. However, whether you wanted this attention or not, you now have it. We need to decide how best to handle the situation." The meeting continued for 2 hours. Various officials proposed different plans for Maya's future. Some wanted her to take a public relations role, traveling the country to speak about women in combat. Others suggested she could serve as a liaison between the military and women's organizations. A few recommended she be temporarily reassigned to training roles while the media attention died down. Maya listened to all the proposals with growing frustration. No one was discussing what she wanted: to return to active duty with her SEAL team. They were treating her like a political tool rather than a soldier. Finally, General Morrison asked Maya directly what she preferred. Maya took a deep breath before responding. "General, I understand that my situation is unusual. But I became a SEAL to serve in combat operations, not to give speeches or pose for photographs. I've spent years training for missions like the one in Los Angeles. That's where I can do the most good, in the field, protecting people." The room fell silent. Maya could see various officials exchanging glances. Finally, General Morrison nodded slowly. "I'll consider your request, Rodriguez. In the meantime, you're temporarily assigned to classified operations with minimal media exposure. We'll revisit this discussion in 3 months." Maya felt relief wash over her. It wasn't exactly what she wanted, but it was better than becoming a full-time spokesperson. She saluted and left the room, eager to return to real work. But, as Maya walked through the Pentagon's corridors, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had changed permanently. The woman who had once operated completely in the shadows was now one of the most recognizable faces in American military. Whether she wanted it or not, she had become a symbol. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into training and preparation for her next assignment. She spent hours at the shooting range, keeping her skills sharp. She studied intelligence reports from around the world, staying current on potential threats. Most importantly, she tried to ignore the constant stream of media coverage about her. But, ignoring the attention proved impossible. Everywhere she went, people recognized her. Fellow service members treated her differently, some with increased respect, others with resentment over her celebrity status. Civilians approached her in restaurants and grocery stores, thanking her for her service or asking for selfies. Maya began to understand that being guardian angel meant more than just being an expert marksman. She had become something larger than herself, a symbol of what women could achieve in military service. The responsibility felt overwhelming. Late one evening, as Maya cleaned her rifle in her apartment, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer.
Maya Rodriguez?
The voice was elderly, with a slight accent she couldn't place.
Who is this? My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm calling from Los Angeles Children's Hospital. I was one of the people you saved 3 months ago. Maya felt her breath catch.
She rarely heard from the people she had protected during missions.
Dr. Chen continued, I wanted to thank you personally. But, more than that, I wanted you to know what your actions meant to us.
Not just because you saved our lives, but because of how you did it.
You showed incredible skill and restraint.
In that moment, you were truly our guardian angel. As Maya listened to Dr. Chen describe the impact of her actions, she began to understand that her role as guardian angel extended beyond any single mission.
She wasn't just a sniper or a SEAL.
She had become something more, a protector who could appear anywhere, eliminate threats, and keep innocent people safe. That night, Maya made a decision that would shape the rest of her career. She would embrace her role as guardian angel, but on her own terms. She would continue serving in combat operations, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. But she would also accept that her actions carried a larger meaning. The woman who had started as a small-town girl with exceptional shooting skills had become something unprecedented in military history. She was guardian angel, lethal when necessary, protective always, and feared by those who threatened innocent lives. As Maya prepared for her next mission, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as she always had, with skill, determination, and an unwavering commitment to protecting those who needed her most.
The legend of Guardian Angel was just beginning.
6 months after the Los Angeles hospital incident, Maya Rodriguez found herself in a place she never expected, the jungles of Colombia, tracking one of the world's most dangerous drug lords. The mission was supposed to be routine surveillance, but nothing involving Guardian Angel ever stayed routine for long. Maya crouched behind a fallen tree, her face painted with green and black camouflage that made her nearly invisible among the dense vegetation. Through her binoculars, she watched a compound nestled in a valley below. Intelligence reports indicated that Carlos El Serpiente Morales was using the facility to coordinate drug shipments into the United States. What the reports hadn't mentioned was the presence of 12 young women who appeared to be held against their will. The situation had become complicated quickly. Maya's original mission was simple: gather intelligence on Morales' operations for a future raid by Colombian authorities. But, when she spotted the women through her scope, everything changed. They looked to be teenagers, maybe early 20s, and they were clearly prisoners rather than willing participants in Morales' operation.
Maya pressed her throat mic command, "This is Angel 1.
I have visual confirmation of approximately 12 females who appear to be held against their will in the target compound.
Recommend immediate escalation of mission parameters."
The response took several minutes.
Angel 1, stand by for mission update.
While waiting for new orders, Maya studied the compound more carefully. The main building was a concrete structure with few windows, surrounded by several smaller wooden buildings that appeared to be living quarters for guards.
She counted at least 15 armed men patrolling the perimeter. Most carried assault rifles and seemed well trained in their movements.
What troubled Maya most was what she observed through one of the compound's few windows. The young women were huddled together in what appeared to be a single room. They looked terrified and malnourished. One girl, who couldn't have been older than 16, sat apart from the others with visible bruises on her arms.
Maya had been fighting human traffickers and drug cartels for 3 years since the hospital incident.
Her reputation as guardian angel had led to assignments across South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, anywhere innocent people needed protection from those who would exploit them. But seeing these young women reminded her why she had chosen this dangerous path. Growing up in Texas, Maya had known a girl named Rosa who had disappeared when they were both 15.
Rosa had been walking home from school one day and simply vanished.
Police found her 3 months later in a human trafficking ring that had transported her across state lines. Rosa survived, but she was never the same. The experience had shaped Maya's understanding of evil in the world and her determination to fight it.
Maya's radio crackled back to life. Angel 1, you are authorized to engage if necessary to protect innocent civilians.
However, primary objective remains intelligence gathering.
Use your discretion. Maya smiled grimly.
Use your discretion was military speak for we can't officially authorize a rescue mission, but if you happen to save those women while gathering intelligence, we won't complain.
She began planning her approach. The compound was situated in a valley with only 2 access routes, a dirt road from the north and a narrow mountain trail from the east. Both were heavily guarded. However, Maya had noticed a third option that the guards seemed to have overlooked.
A steep cliff face on the western side of the valley was considered impassable, which meant it was unguarded.
Maya had always been an excellent climber.
During SEAL training, she had scaled cliffs and buildings that other candidates couldn't manage. The western approach would be dangerous, but it would allow her to get close without detection.
As darkness fell, Maya began her descent into the valley.
She moved slowly and carefully, using natural handholds in the rock face.
Her equipment was secured tightly to prevent any sound that might alert the guards below.
The climb took nearly 2 hours, but she reached the bottom undetected.
From the cliff base, Maya had a clear view of the compound's rear sections.
She could see the building where the women were being held, as well as the guards' patrol patterns. 2 men walked the perimeter every 15 minutes, but they focused mainly on the front and sides of the compound. The rear area, protected by the cliff, received minimal attention. Maya waited for the next patrol to pass, then sprinted across 50 yards of open ground to reach the building's rear wall. She pressed herself against the concrete and listened carefully. From inside, she could hear voices, men speaking in Spanish about shipment schedules and payment arrangements. But she also heard something else that made her blood run cold, the sound of women crying. Moving carefully along the building's exterior, Maya found a small window that had been left partially open for ventilation. Through it, she could see into the room where the women were held. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. The young women were chained to the walls, and several showed signs of physical abuse. One girl appeared to be unconscious or seriously ill.
Maya had seen enough.
These weren't just prisoners, they were victims of human trafficking who needed immediate rescue. She began formulating a plan to get them out while eliminating the threat posed by Morales and his men.
First, she needed to create a diversion that would draw the guards away from the prison building.
Maya circled the compound until she found the facility's generator, housed in a small shed about 100 yards from the main building.
If she could disable it, the resulting darkness would provide cover for her rescue operation.
Maya reached the generator shed without detection. Inside, she found not just the electrical equipment, but also several crates of explosives that Morales' organization was apparently storing for future operations. The sight of the explosives gave Maya an idea for a much larger diversion than she had originally planned. Working quickly, Maya set charges on the generator and several other strategic locations around the compound. She programmed the explosives to detonate in sequence, creating confusion and drawing guards away from the prison building. But she also planted a larger charge near Morales' personal quarters, where intelligence suggested he kept records of his organization's operations. With the charges in place, Maya made her way back to the building holding the captured women. She used her combat knife to quietly break the lock on a rear door, then slipped inside. The interior was even worse than what she had observed through the window. The women were not just chained, they were being held in conditions that were barely human.
Maya approached the nearest woman, a girl who appeared to be about 18 years old.
"I'm here to help," she whispered in Spanish.
"I'm going to get you out of here."
The girl's eyes widened with a mixture of hope and fear.
"Are you police?" she asked quietly.
"I'm something better," Maya replied.
"I'm your guardian angel." Maya began working to free the women from their chains.
She had brought bolt cutters for exactly this purpose. But, as she worked, she heard voices approaching the building.
The guards were making an unscheduled check on the prisoners.
Maya quickly moved to a position beside the door, her combat knife ready. 2 guards entered the room, speaking casually about their plans for the evening.
They never saw Maya coming.
She struck quickly and, silently, neutralizing both men without alerting the rest of the compound.
With the immediate threat eliminated, Maya continued freeing the captives.
Most of the women were too weak or traumatized to move quickly, which would complicate the escape.
Maya realized she needed to eliminate more of the guards before attempting to evacuate the prisoners. She checked her watch. The explosives would detonate in 10 minutes, creating the perfect opportunity to strike.
Maya instructed the women to stay quiet and be ready to move when she returned. Then, she slipped back outside to begin hunting the remaining guards. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse through the compound. Maya used her training in stealth and close-quarters combat to systematically eliminate guards without raising an alarm. She struck from shadows, used silenced weapons when necessary, and moved like a ghost through the facility. By the time the first explosion lit up the night sky, Maya had reduced the guard force from 15 men to 6. The blast from the generator shed plunged the compound into darkness and sent the remaining guards running toward the flames. In the confusion, Maya made her way to Morales' personal quarters. She found the drug lord barricaded in his office, frantically trying to destroy documents and computer files. Morales was a large man with gold teeth and tattoos covering his arms. He had built his organization through brutality and intimidation. But, when he looked up to see Guardian Angel standing in his doorway, his expression changed to one of pure terror. "You," he whispered, recognizing her from news reports and wanted posters his organization had circulated.
"The Guardian Angel.
They said you were just a legend." Maya stepped into the room, her rifle trained on Morales.
"Legends don't rescue trafficking victims. Legends don't shut down drug operations. I'm very real, and you're finished."
Morales reached for a weapon, but Maya was faster.
A single shot ended his criminal enterprise permanently.
She then gathered the documents and computer files he had been trying to destroy, evidence that would help authorities dismantle the rest of his organization. The second explosion rocked the compound as Maya made her way back to the captured women. The remaining guards were in complete panic, running in all directions and firing randomly at shadows. In the chaos, no one noticed Maya leading 12 freed captives toward the cliff face where she had entered the valley.
The escape route proved challenging with the rescued women, most of whom were weak from captivity and abuse.
But Maya had prepared for this possibility. She had rigged climbing ropes and pulleys that would allow her to help the women reach safety even if they couldn't climb on their own.
One by one, Maya lifted the women up the cliff face.
The process took nearly 3 hours, but eventually all 12 were safe at the top of the ridge where a Colombian military unit was waiting to provide medical attention and protection.
As dawn broke over the jungle, Maya looked back at the compound below.
Smoke still rose from the explosions, and she could see Colombian authorities arriving to process the scene. Morales' operation had been completely destroyed, his trafficking victims were safe, and evidence of his crimes was in the hands of prosecutors.
But Maya knew this was just one victory in a much larger war. For every Carlos Morales she eliminated, 3 more criminals took his place.
The fight against human trafficking and drug cartels required constant vigilance and action.
Over the following weeks, Maya's actions in Colombia generated another wave of media attention.
The story of Guardian Angel rescuing 12 trafficking victims and single-handedly destroying a drug operation captured international headlines. Human rights organizations praised her methods.
Government officials debated the ethics of her approach. Military analysts studied her tactics for training purposes. Maya found herself once again uncomfortable with the attention.
She hadn't rescued those women for recognition or praise. She had done it because it was the right thing to do, because they needed help and she was in a position to provide it. The media focus on her personal story missed the larger point about the victims she had saved. But the attention also brought unexpected opportunities. Intelligence agencies from allied nations began requesting Maya's assistance with similar operations. She found herself working with British SAS forces to rescue kidnapped aid workers in Somalia. She partnered with Israeli special forces to eliminate terrorist cells threatening civilians.
She assisted French commandos in shutting down weapons trafficking rings in West Africa. Each mission reinforced Maya's understanding of her unique role in modern warfare. She wasn't just a marksman or a SEAL. She had become something new, a specialist in protecting innocent people from predators who operated outside the reach of conventional law enforcement. The missions also took their toll. Maya began suffering from nightmares about the victims she couldn't save. She developed a nervous habit of checking and rechecking her equipment, afraid that a mechanical failure might cost innocent lives. The weight of responsibility for so many people's safety was enormous. During a rare break between operations, Maya visited a military psychologist to discuss her growing stress. Dr. Jennifer Walsh had worked with special operations personnel for over 15 years and understood the unique pressures they faced. "Maya, what you're experiencing is normal for someone in your position," Dr. Walsh explained during their first session. "The human mind isn't designed to carry the level of responsibility you've taken on. You need coping mechanisms to maintain your mental health." Maya nodded but felt frustrated. "Doctor, I know the risks when I take these missions. But if I don't act, people die. Children get sold into slavery. Terrorists kill innocents. How can I worry about my mental health when so much is at stake?" Dr. Walsh leaned forward in her chair. "Because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to help anyone. You're pushing yourself toward burnout, and, when that happens, you become a liability rather than an asset." The conversation continued for over an hour. Dr. Walsh helped Maya understand that taking care of herself wasn't selfish, it was necessary for her continued effectiveness. They discussed meditation techniques, stress management strategies, and the importance of maintaining relationships outside of work. But, even as Maya worked on her mental health, new threats emerged that demanded her attention. Intelligence reports indicated that a terrorist organization was planning attacks on schools across 3 different countries. The group had already struck twice, killing dozens of children and teachers. Conventional military forces had been unable to locate or stop them. Maya was asked to lead a multinational task force dedicated to hunting down the terrorists before they could strike again. The mission would require her to coordinate with special forces from multiple countries while tracking an enemy that had proven extremely elusive. As Maya prepared for what might be her most challenging mission yet, she reflected on how far she had come from that small town in Texas. The girl who had learned to shoot in her father's backyard had become one of the world's most effective protectors of innocent life. But she also understood that her greatest challenges lay ahead. The terrorists she was hunting were cunning and well-funded. They had evaded capture by some of the world's best intelligence services. Taking them down would require every skill Maya had developed over years of special operations. Maya spent days studying intelligence files on the terrorist organization. They called themselves the Cleansing Flame and believed that modern society had become corrupted beyond redemption. Their solution was to attack symbols of innocence, schools, hospitals, playgrounds, to terrorize populations into submission. The group's leader was a man known only as the Teacher, a former university professor who had been radicalized after his family was killed in a drone strike. He had recruited followers from around the world, promising them that their sacrificial attacks would purify humanity through fear and suffering. What made the Cleansing Flame particularly dangerous was their use of local recruits who could blend into target communities. They would spend months preparing for each attack, gathering intelligence and positioning resources. By the time authorities realized an attack was imminent, it was usually too late to prevent it. Maya knew that stopping them would require a different approach than her previous missions. Instead of reacting to threats, she would need to anticipate them. Instead of rescue operations, she would need prevention. Guardian Angel was about to face her most complex challenge yet. As Maya boarded a military transport plane bound for her first operational briefing, she carried with her the hopes of parents and teachers around the world. Children were depending on her to stop a threat they couldn't even comprehend. The responsibility was staggering,
but Maya had never backed down from protecting innocent life. The legend of Guardian Angel was about to enter its most critical chapter. The International Task Force headquarters in Geneva buzzed with activity as Maya Rodriguez studied satellite images spread across a massive table. Representatives from 12 different countries had gathered to coordinate the hunt for the Cleansing Flame terrorist organization. Maya stood at the center of it all, the woman they now called Guardian Angel serving as the operation's primary field commander. 3 weeks had passed since the task force's formation, and intelligence was finally beginning to paint a picture of their enemy's structure. The Cleansing Flame operated in small, independent cells that communicated through encrypted channels. Each cell was responsible for planning and executing attacks in their designated region. The challenge was that eliminating one cell provided little information about the others. Commander Sarah Mitchell from British SAS pointed to a location on the map. Our contacts in Pakistan intercepted communications suggesting a cell is planning something in Karachi. They mentioned a bright flame scheduled for next week. Major Hans Weber from German GSG-9 nodded grimly. Similar language appeared in intercepts from Berlin. Our analysts believe bright flame is code for an imminent attack. Maya studied the intelligence reports carefully. The Cleansing Flame had already struck schools in Syria and Nigeria, killing over 200 children and teachers combined. The attacks had been coordinated to occur within hours of each other, maximizing media impact and psychological terror. If the intelligence was correct, they were planning something even larger. Colonel David Park from South Korean Special Forces had been monitoring communications in Seoul. We've identified at least 6 potential targets in my area of operations. All elementary schools in densely populated districts. The terrorists seem to prefer locations where they can cause maximum casualties and media coverage. Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Somewhere in the world, children were going about their normal routines, attending classes, playing with friends, learning about the world around them. They had no idea that people were planning to murder them simply to spread fear and hatred. We need to think differently about this, Maya said, addressing the assembled commanders. Traditional approaches haven't worked against this organization. They're too decentralized, too careful about operational security. We need to force them to make mistakes. Maya outlined her plan. Instead of trying to track down individual cells, they would create opportunities for the Cleansing Flame to reveal themselves. The task force would establish apparent vulnerabilities at high-value targets while maintaining invisible security perimeters. When the terrorists moved to exploit these openings, they would walk into carefully prepared traps. The plan required unprecedented coordination between multiple intelligence agencies and special forces units. Maya would personally oversee operations in 3 different countries simultaneously, using satellite communications and drone surveillance to direct tactical teams in real time. Within 48 hours, Maya was airborne again, this time heading for Karachi where Pakistani intelligence had identified the most imminent threat. The flight gave her time to review personnel files for the team she would be working with. The Pakistani Special Service Group had provided their best operators, men who had been fighting terrorism for decades. Major Farhan Hassan met Maya at Karachi International Airport. He was a veteran of hundreds of counter-terrorism operations and initially seemed skeptical about working with an American female operative, regardless of her reputation. But, when Maya outlined her tactical plan during the drive to their operational base, his attitude changed. "This is bold," Hassan admitted. "Risky, but bold. If it works, we could eliminate the entire cell in one operation. If it fails, children die," Maya finished. "That's not an option." The target school was Bright Future Elementary, located in a crowded neighborhood where over 800 students attended classes daily. Intelligence suggested that the Cleansing Flame had been conducting surveillance of the facility for weeks, mapping security procedures and identifying potential entry points. Maya's plan called for creating the illusion that the school's security had been reduced while actually strengthening it with hidden assets. Pakistani Special Forces would pose as maintenance workers, teachers, and vendors in the surrounding area. Maya herself would take position in a building across the street, providing overwatch and coordination for the entire operation.
The setup took 2 days to complete. Maya established her command post in an abandoned office building that provided clear sightlines to all approaches to the school. Her equipment included advanced surveillance gear that could detect heat signatures, monitor communications, and track movement patterns across a 2-block radius. On the morning of the 3rd day, Maya's patience was rewarded. 3 men in a delivery truck approached the school at an unusual time, when normal deliveries weren't scheduled. Through her scope, Maya could see that the men were nervous and kept checking their watches, classic signs of operators preparing for an imminent attack. Maya activated her throat mic. All units, this is Angel 1. We have 3 potential tangos approaching target location in a white delivery truck. License plate matches one from our watch list. The response was immediate. Pakistani special forces began moving into position around the school perimeter while maintaining their cover identities. Maya tracked the truck as it pulled into the school's loading dock. 2 men got out and began unloading what appeared to be supply boxes. The 3rd remained in the driver's seat with the engine running. Through her scope, Maya observed the men's movements more closely. They were too careful, too alert for simple delivery workers. One man kept his hand near his waistband where a concealed weapon might be hidden. The other was scanning the area constantly, looking for threats rather than focusing on his supposed job. Angel 1 to all units, Maya whispered into her radio. Confirmed hostile activity. 2 tangos are moving toward the main entrance with suspicious packages. Driver remains in vehicle as potential escape asset. Moving to intercept. Maya's rifle was already trained on the driver when the situation suddenly escalated. One of the men approaching the school dropped his disguise and pulled out an assault rifle. At the same moment, explosions erupted from the packages they had been carrying, smoke grenades designed to create confusion during their attack. The school's real security guards reacted quickly, ushering children away from the entrance and locking down the building. But the cleansing flame had planned for this response. Maya watched in horror as a 4th terrorist emerged from a manhole cover in the school's playground, flanking the main defensive positions. Maya had a clear shot at the driver, but taking it would alert the other terrorists that their operation was compromised. Instead, she made a split-second decision that would define the entire engagement. She targeted the terrorist in the playground first, eliminating the threat to the children's escape route. The suppressed rifle shot dropped the flanking terrorist instantly. Maya immediately shifted to track the driver, but he was already moving, throwing the truck into reverse to create distance from the school. The remaining 2 terrorists near the entrance realized their operation was falling apart and began firing indiscriminately at anyone in sight. All units engage, Maya commanded over the radio. Protect the children at all costs. What followed was a carefully controlled firefight designed to eliminate threats while minimizing risk to innocent civilians. Pakistani special forces moved with precision, using their prepared positions to surround and neutralize the terrorists. Maya provided overwatch, taking out targets that posed the greatest danger to children and responders. The engagement lasted less than 4 minutes, but it felt like hours. When the shooting stopped, all 4 terrorists were dead and no civilians had been harmed. Maya's tactical plan had worked perfectly, but she knew this was just the beginning. Intelligence gathered from the dead terrorists revealed the scope of the Cleansing Flames planned attacks. They had been preparing simultaneous strikes on schools in 5 different countries, timed to occur during peak media hours for maximum psychological impact. The Karachi cell was just one piece of a much larger operation. Maya immediately coordinated with task force commanders in other countries. The intelligence from Karachi provided crucial details about the Cleansing Flames communication protocols and operational timelines. For the first time, they had a chance to get ahead of the terrorists instead of reacting to their attacks. Over the next 72 hours, Maya moved between operation centers in 3 different countries, coordinating complex interdiction efforts. In Berlin, German special forces used the Karachi intelligence to identify and neutralize a terrorist cell before they could reach their target. In Seoul, South Korean commandos disrupted an attack during its final planning stages. But the most challenging operation was still ahead. Intelligence indicated that the Cleansing Flames' largest cell was operating in London, planning an attack on a school with over 1,500 students.
This wasn't just another cell, it was the organization's command structure, including the mysterious figure known as the teacher.
Maya arrived in London to find a situation unlike any she had faced before.
The terrorist cell had embedded themselves deeply in the local community, using legitimate businesses and social connections as cover for their operations. Some members had been living in the area for over 2 years, establishing themselves as trusted community members. British intelligence had identified the target school but couldn't locate where the terrorists were staging their operation. Unlike previous cells that operated from isolated safe houses, this group had distributed their resources across multiple locations throughout London.
Finding them would require a different approach.
Maya studied the intelligence files with Detective Inspector Jane Whitmore from Scotland Yard's Counter-Terrorism Command. Whitmore had been tracking the Cleansing Flames activities in London for months and understood their methods better than anyone.
They're using a network of seemingly unconnected businesses, Whitmore explained.
A restaurant here, a delivery service there, a small electronics shop.
Individually, nothing appears suspicious.
Together, they form a logistics network capable of supporting a major operation.
Maya realized that conventional surveillance wouldn't work against such a distributed enemy.
Instead, she proposed using the terrorists' own methods against them.
The task force would create a false vulnerability that would force the cleansing flame to reveal their positions as they moved to exploit it. The plan required Maya to expose herself as bait.
Intelligence suggested that the teacher was obsessed with eliminating Guardian Angel, viewing her as a symbol of everything he opposed.
If Maya made herself visible and, apparently vulnerable, she might draw the entire organization into a trap.
Working with British Special Forces, Maya established herself at a hotel near the target school. She made no attempt to conceal her presence, actually encouraging media coverage of her arrival in London. News reports mentioned her location and suggested she was working alone to investigate terrorist threats.
The bait was irresistible.
Within hours of the news reports, surveillance detected unusual activity around Maya's hotel.
Members of the Cleansing Flame began positioning themselves for what they believed would be an opportunity to eliminate their most effective enemy. What the terrorists didn't know was that Maya's hotel room was actually a sophisticated command center.
Hidden cameras and listening devices monitored every approach to the building.
British SAS forces were positioned in neighboring buildings, ready to respond to any threat.
Maya herself was wearing body armor and had multiple escape routes planned.
On the second night, the Cleansing Flame made their move.
A team of 6 terrorists approached the hotel simultaneously from different directions. They moved with military precision, suggesting extensive training and planning.
This wasn't a simple assassination attempt, it was a full-scale assault designed to eliminate Maya and send a message to the international task force. Maya watched the terrorists approach through her surveillance monitors.
They were well-equipped and clearly experienced in urban combat. But they had made one critical mistake: they had revealed their positions and capabilities in their eagerness to kill Guardian Angel.
"All units, this is Angel 1, Maya spoke quietly into her radio. 6 tangos moving on my position. This is what we've been waiting for.
Begin surveillance of their withdrawal routes and follow them back to their base of operations."
The attack on Maya's hotel was fierce but brief.
British Special Forces allowed the terrorists to enter the building, then contained them in the lobby and stairwells. Maya herself never fired a shot, her role was to survive long enough for the real plan to unfold. When the shooting ended, 3 terrorists were dead and 3 were captured alive. More importantly, British surveillance teams were following the terrorists' planned escape routes back to their staging areas across London. The failed assault on Maya had revealed the locations that months of investigation couldn't uncover.
Within hours, simultaneous raids struck 12 different locations across London. The Cleansing Flame's entire command structure was rolled up in a single night.
Among those captured was the man known as the teacher, Dr. Marcus Webb, a former Oxford professor whose radicalization had turned him into one of the world's most dangerous terrorists. The raids also uncovered plans for attacks far beyond anything intelligence agencies had imagined. The Cleansing Flame had been preparing to strike schools in 17 different countries, with coordinated timing designed to create global panic. The discovery of these plans allowed authorities worldwide to alert potential targets and strengthen security.
Maya stood in the London Task Force headquarters as reports came in from around the globe.
Every identified cleansing flame cell had been neutralized. Their communication networks had been dismantled. Their funding sources had been frozen.
The organization that had terrorized communities worldwide had been eliminated in less than a week.
But Maya felt no satisfaction in the victory. She thought about the children in Karachi, Berlin, Seoul, and London who had gone to school that week unaware of how close they had come to becoming victims of senseless violence. The terrorists' plans revealed that hundreds, possibly thousands of young lives had been at risk.
General Patricia Morrison called Maya personally to congratulate her on the operation's success.
"Rodriguez, what you and your team accomplished this week will save countless lives."
The cleansing flame was planning attacks that would have dwarfed anything we've seen before.
Maya accepted the praise but remained focused on the larger picture. "General, we stopped one organization, but others will take their place. The fight against terrorism targeting innocent civilians requires constant vigilance."
"Understood," Morrison replied.
"Which is why we're forming a permanent international task force dedicated to protecting civilian targets from terrorist threats.
We want you to lead it." Maya considered the offer carefully.
Leading a permanent anti-terrorism unit would mean taking on even greater responsibilities. She would be coordinating operations across multiple continents, managing relationships with dozens of intelligence agencies, and making decisions that could affect global security. But she also knew that no one else had her unique combination of skills and experience.
Her reputation as guardian angel opened doors that remained closed to other operators.
Her tactical abilities allowed her to succeed where conventional forces had failed. Most importantly, her unwavering commitment to protecting innocent life made her the right person for the job.
"General, I accept the position," Maya said finally. "But I have conditions."
"This unit operates with minimal bureaucratic oversight.
We focus on results, not politics.
And we never hesitate to act when innocent lives are at stake." "Agreed," Morrison responded immediately. "You'll have resources and authority that no single operative has ever possessed. Use them wisely." As Maya hung up the phone, she realized that Guardian Angel had evolved again. She was no longer just a sniper or even a special operations leader. She had become something entirely new, a global protector dedicated to hunting down those who threatened the innocent.
Over the following weeks, Maya assembled her international task force.
She selected operators not just for their tactical skills, but for their commitment to protecting civilian life. The team included specialists from every major military and intelligence organization in the world. They would operate from multiple bases, respond to threats anywhere on the planet, and coordinate with local authorities to prevent attacks before they occurred.
Maya knew that leading such an organization would push her capabilities to their absolute limits.
The responsibility for protecting innocent people around the world was staggering. But, as she prepared for her new role, she thought about all the children who would grow up safely because of her team's work. Guardian Angel was no longer just a person, she had become a concept, a promise that somewhere in the world, people were watching and ready to act when evil threatened the innocent. Maya Rodriguez had started her career as an exceptional marksman. She had become the leader of humanity's shield against those who would harm the defenseless. The legend of Guardian Angel was entering its most important chapter, and the world was safer because of it. 2 years had passed since Maya Rodriguez established the International Civilian Protection Task Force, and the world had become a safer place for innocent people. From her command center in a secure facility outside Washington, D.C., Maya coordinated operations across 6 continents, leading a team of elite operators who had prevented dozens of terrorist attacks, dismantled human trafficking networks, and eliminated threats that conventional forces couldn't handle. But, on this gray October morning, Maya faced her most personal and dangerous challenge yet. Intelligence had uncovered a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government, military, and private military contractors. Someone with access to classified information was selling Guardian Angel's operational details to criminal organizations, putting both Maya and innocent civilians at risk. Maya stood before a wall of monitors displaying global intelligence feeds when her deputy commander, Colonel James Morrison, approached with a classified file. Morrison had been with the task force since its inception and was one of the few people Maya trusted completely.
"Maya, we've got a problem," Morrison said quietly. "3 of our recent operations were compromised before we even deployed. Someone knew our plans, our routes, everything.
They're selling our intelligence to the highest bidder."
Maya studied the file Morrison handed her. 3 separate missions had encountered unexpected resistance, almost as if their enemies had been warned in advance.
In Somalia, a team attempting to rescue kidnapped aid workers had walked into an ambush that should have been impossible. In Eastern Europe, an operation to shut down organ traffickers had found empty facilities and destroyed evidence. Most recently, a mission to extract a whistleblower exposing government corruption had failed when the target was murdered hours before the planned extraction.
How many people had access to these operational plans? Maya asked, though she already suspected the answer would be troubling. "That's the problem," Morrison replied.
The information could only have come from someone with the highest security clearances. We're looking at fewer than 20 people who had access to all 3 missions. Maya, the leak is coming from inside our own organization or from the intelligence agencies that support us. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October weather. For 2 years, she had trusted her life and the lives of innocent civilians to a network of intelligence professionals and military officials. The idea that someone in that network was betraying them for money was almost incomprehensible. But, as Maya reviewed the evidence, the pattern became undeniable. Someone was systematically compromising their operations, and people were dying as a result. The aid workers in Somalia had been executed when the rescue failed. The organ trafficking victims in Eastern Europe had disappeared into the criminal underground. The corruption whistleblower was dead, and his evidence had been destroyed. "We need to investigate this internally," Maya decided.
"But we can't use normal channels.
If there's a mole, they'll know we're onto them the moment we start an official investigation.
This has to be completely off the books." Maya began her investigation that evening, working alone in her secured office after the rest of the task force had gone home.
She pulled up personnel files, mission reports, and communication logs, looking for patterns that might reveal the traitor's identity. The work was tedious and emotionally exhausting, as she found herself suspecting people she had worked with for years. As Maya delved deeper into the data, she discovered something that made her blood run cold.
The compromised operations weren't random selections. Someone had specifically chosen missions that would result in maximum harm to innocent people.
This wasn't just about money, someone was deliberately trying to destroy everything Guardian Angel represented.
The breakthrough came when Maya analyzed communication timestamps.
One person had accessed classified mission details exactly 12 hours before each compromised operation, always during off-duty hours when such access would be less noticeable. The pattern was subtle, but it was there. The traitor was Dr. Richard Steinberg, the task force's senior intelligence analyst. Maya had known Steinberg for 3 years and had trusted him with her life on numerous occasions. He was responsible for coordinating intelligence from multiple agencies and had access to virtually every classified detail of their operations.
Maya felt sick as she reviewed Steinberg's file.
He had served in military intelligence for over 20 years with an exemplary record. He had 2 children in college and a wife suffering from an expensive medical condition. Financial pressure might have provided the motive for betrayal, but Maya struggled to understand how anyone could justify selling out innocent people for money. Rather than confronting Steinberg directly, Maya decided to set a trap. She would create a fake mission with false details and see if the information was leaked to their enemies. If Steinberg was the mole, this would prove it definitively while giving Maya a chance to discover who was buying their intelligence. Working with Morrison and 2 other trusted team members, Maya created the fictional Operation Sanctuary.
According to the false mission brief, Guardian Angel was planning to rescue a group of American journalists being held by terrorists in Yemen.
The mission details included specific dates, locations, team compositions, and extraction routes, all completely fabricated. Maya made sure that Steinberg had access to the false mission details while restricting the information from everyone else on the team. If the fake operation was compromised, there would be only one possible source for the leak. The trap worked faster than Maya had expected. Within 48 hours, intelligence intercepts revealed that terrorist organizations in Yemen were preparing for an American rescue operation that matched the details of the fictional mission exactly. The information had been sold almost immediately after Steinberg accessed it.
But Maya's investigation had revealed something even more disturbing.
The organization buying their intelligence wasn't just any criminal group, it was a shadow network of former military and intelligence officials who had gone rogue. They called themselves the Praetorian Guard and believed that Guardian Angel represented a threat to the natural order of global power.
The Praetorian Guard's philosophy was simple. They believed that attempts to protect innocent civilians interfered with the efficient operation of global politics and economics.
Wars, terrorism, and criminal enterprises served important functions in their worldview by maintaining population controls and ensuring that only the strong survived. Guardian Angel's humanitarian mission threatened their vision of how the world should operate.
Maya realized she was facing more than just a corrupt intelligence analyst.
She was up against a sophisticated organization that wanted to eliminate her and everything she had built. The Praetorian Guard had been using Steinberg's intelligence to systematically destroy Guardian Angel's effectiveness, planning to eventually kill Maya and disband the task force entirely. The situation required extreme caution.
Maya couldn't use normal military or intelligence channels because she didn't know how deeply the Praetorian Guard had infiltrated government agencies.
She needed to neutralize both Steinberg and his handlers while protecting the innocent civilians who would suffer if the task force was compromised further.
Maya spent the next week developing her counter-operation.
She would allow Steinberg to think his treason remained undetected while using him to feed false information to the Praetorian Guard. At the same time, she would track the organization's members and prepare to eliminate them before they could strike at Guardian Angel. The plan required Maya to operate completely independently, without backup or official support. She would be hunting some of the world's most dangerous former intelligence operatives using only her own skills and resources. If she failed, not only would she die, but the Praetorian Guard would succeed in destroying the organization that protected innocent people around the world.
Maya began her hunt by following the money trail from Steinberg's payments.
Financial forensics revealed a complex network of shell companies and offshore accounts, but Maya's years of investigating criminal organizations had taught her how to unravel such schemes. The trail led to a private military company called Apex Solutions, which served as a front for the Praetorian Guard's operations.
Apex Solutions was headquartered in a gleaming office building in downtown Virginia, just minutes from the Pentagon and CIA headquarters.
The company claimed to provide security consulting services to corporations and governments, but Maya's investigation revealed they were actually coordinating attacks on humanitarian organizations worldwide. The company's founder and CEO was General Marcus Blackwood, a former Army Special Operations commander who had been quietly forced out of the military for what the official records called philosophical differences with command. Maya dug deeper and discovered that Blackwood had been advocating for more aggressive military policies that disregarded civilian casualties.
Blackwood had recruited other like-minded former officials to join his organization.
The Praetorian Guard included ex-CIA operatives, former Special Forces soldiers, and disgraced intelligence analysts who shared his belief that humanitarian concerns were weaknesses in global power structures.
Maya realized that eliminating this organization would require more than just tactical skills.
The Praetorian Guard operated within legal gray areas, using legitimate business fronts and exploiting their former government connections. Taking them down would require evidence of criminal activity that could be used by prosecutors, not just military action.
Maya's solution was to infiltrate the organization using her own legend as bait.
Intelligence suggested that the Praetorian Guard was planning a direct attack on Guardian Angel, probably timed to occur during a high-profile rescue mission. If Maya could make herself appear vulnerable while actually being prepared for their assault, she might be able to capture the evidence needed to destroy them legally. Working with Morrison and a small team of completely trusted operators, Maya created another fictional operation.
This time, the fake mission involved rescuing a kidnapped diplomat's daughter from terrorists in Syria.
The mission profile was designed to be irresistibly attractive to the Praetorian Guard: high-profile target, isolated location, limited backup support. Maya made sure Steinberg had access to the mission details, then waited to see how the Praetorian Guard would respond.
She didn't have to wait long.
Within days, intelligence intercepts revealed that Apex Solutions was mobilizing a strike team to Syria, apparently planning to eliminate Maya and her team during the fictional rescue operation.
But Maya had one more card to play.
Instead of going to Syria herself, she would remain in Virginia to strike directly at the Praetorian Guard's headquarters while they were focused on the false mission. It was a dangerous gamble, but it offered the best chance to eliminate the entire organization in a single operation.
On the night of the planned mission, Maya approached the Apex Solutions building with equipment that would have impressed even her former SEAL teammates.
She carried climbing gear, electronic surveillance devices, and enough evidence-gathering equipment to document whatever criminal activity she found inside. The building appeared nearly empty, with most of the Praetorian Guard's operatives deployed to Syria for their planned attack on Guardian Angel. But Maya knew that Blackwood and his core leadership team would remain at headquarters to coordinate the operation. These were the men she needed to capture or eliminate to end their threat permanently. Maya gained entry to the building through a maintenance access that her intelligence had identified as unmonitored. She moved through the facility like a ghost, avoiding security cameras and alarm systems while making her way to the executive floors where Blackwood maintained his office. What Maya found in Blackwood's private office confirmed her worst fears about the Praetorian Guard's scope and ambitions. Computer files revealed that they had been responsible for dozens of attacks on humanitarian organizations over the past 5 years. They had assassinated aid workers, sabotaged refugee camps, and sold weapons to terrorist groups, all in service of their belief that humanitarian intervention was weakening global power structures. The files also revealed that Guardian Angel was just one target in a much larger campaign. The Praetorian Guard was planning attacks on the United Nations, International Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, and other organizations that worked to protect innocent civilians. Their ultimate goal was to create a world where only military and economic power mattered, where protecting the weak was seen as foolish sentiment.
Maya was photographing the incriminating documents when Blackwood himself entered the office.
The former general was a large man in his 50s, with gray hair and cold blue eyes that showed no surprise at finding Guardian Angel in his private space. "Maya Rodriguez," Blackwood said calmly, as if he had been expecting her.
"The famous Guardian Angel. I was wondering when you would finally come to see me." Maya kept her weapon trained on Blackwood while continuing to gather evidence.
"General, you're under citizen's arrest for treason, conspiracy, and accessory to murder.
The evidence in your files is enough to send you to prison for the rest of your life." Blackwood laughed coldly. "Evidence? Miss Rodriguez, I'm afraid you misunderstand the situation. You're a single operative who broke into a private building and is threatening a respected businessman. Who do you think the authorities will believe?" What Maya didn't know was that Blackwood had been expecting her arrival. The entire scenario, the leaked mission details, the deployment to Syria, the apparently empty building, had been designed to lure Guardian Angel into a trap. Maya's tactical skills had gotten her into Blackwood's office, but she had walked into a carefully prepared ambush. Alarms began sounding throughout the building as Blackwood activated a hidden security system. Emergency barriers sealed the exits while armed guards began converging on the executive floor. Maya realized that instead of capturing the Praetorian Guard's leadership, she had delivered herself directly to them. But Maya had been preparing for this possibility. While Blackwood gloated about his trap, Maya was activating her own contingency plan. Hidden transmitters in her equipment were broadcasting everything she had found to Morrison and her backup team. Even if she didn't survive the confrontation, the evidence would reach the proper authorities. The firefight that erupted in Apex Solutions that night was unlike anything Maya had experienced. She wasn't facing random criminals or even trained terrorists. The Praetorian Guard's operatives were former Special Forces soldiers who knew her tactics and capabilities. They had studied Guardian Angel's methods and prepared specifically to counter them. Maya fought her way through the building using every skill she had learned over years of special operations.
She used the facility's layout against her attackers, turning their own security systems into obstacles for them.
But she was vastly outnumbered and running low on ammunition. The turning point came when Morrison and a federal task force arrived at the building. Maya's transmitted evidence had been enough to secure arrest warrants for Blackwood and his associates. Federal agents stormed the Apex Solutions headquarters just as Maya was making her final stand in Blackwood's office.
When the shooting stopped, the Praetorian Guard had been eliminated as a threat. Blackwood and 6 of his top associates were in federal custody, facing charges that would keep them in prison for life. Their files provided evidence that led to arrests in 12 different countries, dismantling a global network that had been responsible for countless attacks on innocent civilians. But the victory came at a personal cost for Maya.
During the firefight, she had been wounded by shrapnel from a grenade blast.
The injury wasn't life-threatening, but it served as a reminder of her mortality and the risks she took every day. As Maya recovered in a military hospital, she found herself reflecting on her future. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the military psychologist who had counseled Maya years earlier, visited her during her recovery. "Maya, you've accomplished more than anyone thought possible when you started this journey. You saved thousands of lives, eliminated terrorist networks, and created an organization that protects innocent people worldwide. The question is, what do you want to do next?" Maya considered the question carefully. At 32, she had already achieved legendary status in the special operations community. Guardian Angel was now recognized as one of the most effective counter-terrorism operatives in history. The task force she had built would continue protecting innocent civilians long after she stepped down from active duty. But Maya also knew that somewhere in the world, people still needed protection. Criminal organizations would continue threatening innocent lives. Terrorist groups would plan new attacks. Human traffickers would prey on the vulnerable. As long as evil existed in the world, there would be a need for Guardian Angel. "Doctor," Maya said finally, "I've spent my entire adult life training to protect people who can't protect themselves. I'm not ready to stop doing that now. But I am ready to evolve." Over the following months, Maya restructured the International Civilian Protection Task Force to operate with less dependence on her personal involvement. She trained new team leaders, established additional operational bases, and created protocols that would allow the organization to function effectively even without Guardian Angel's direct participation. Maya also accepted a new role as an instructor at a classified training facility where the next generation of special operations personnel learned their craft. She would pass on her knowledge and experience to operators who would carry forward the mission of protecting innocent life. But Maya never completely retired from active duty. When situations arose that required Guardian Angel's unique skills, she answered the call. A hostage crisis in Eastern Europe. A terrorist plot targeting a children's hospital in Africa. Human traffickers operating along the Mexican border. Whenever innocent people needed a Guardian Angel, Maya was ready to serve. Years later, Maya would look back on her career with the knowledge that she had made a difference. The little girl from Texas who had learned to shoot in her father's backyard had become something unprecedented in military history. She had proven that one person, with the right skills and unwavering dedication, could indeed change the world. Guardian Angel had become more than just a person. She was a symbol of hope for the innocent and a promise of justice for those who would harm them. Maya Rodriguez had started her journey as an exceptional marksman. She had become a legend, a protector, and, ultimately, a guardian angel for all who needed one. The woman they called Guardian Angel had earned her wings through courage, skill, and an absolute commitment to protecting those who could not protect themselves. And, as long as evil existed in the world, the legend of Guardian Angel would inspire others to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Maya's story was proof that sometimes Guardian Angels are real, and sometimes they're lethal to those who threaten the innocent. In a world that often seemed dark and dangerous, Guardian Angel was a beacon of light, reminding everyone that good still existed and that it would always fight to protect what mattered most, the lives of innocent people who deserved to live free from fear.